Well, boys and girls, I believe this is part 30 of this series. And since part 29, I've done about 8 hours of work, and I didn't think you want to sit there and watch me do all that in 5-minute increments. So basically, I'm going to summarize everything that I did, which was basically a lot of hacking of PSD files into images and uploading them via the uploader here. A lot of it was uploading background images, copying this, and putting it in the widget areas for CSS, the widget CSS areas. There are a couple things I want to point out. I talked about this briefly, that there were a number of ways to create. I guess I should show you the final product. So this is what we came up with here, and it's fully functional and ready to go to the client. And so this area right here, this whole big area, this is the home page. There's one page inside our content management system called home, and this area right here is the body of it. Now you might say it's a lot of manual HTML coding, and it would have been, but we didn't do any manual HTML coding. Basically, if you look at the home page, this is what it looks like. It's a bunch of shortcodes, and if you look, you see strip markup. All it does is take out the HTML that WordPress adds to everything in between here. So we strip markups in 3 places, and each of these little strip markups represents what could be considered a row. So you see, this is a widget. These are 2 widgets, and this is 1 widget. So that roughly corresponds to, it does correspond to this widget, this big widget on the top, which is 24 columns wide. These 2 widgets, this one is 16 and this one is 8 columns wide. And these 3 widgets, each of which is 18 columns wide. So, and you can see what type of widgets they are. Or excuse me, that bottom row is one actual widget that is 24 columns wide, and then it has 8 items, or excuse me, 3 items in it that are 8 columns wide each. So if you look at it, it says, okay, this is a slider widget, this is a query widget, this is a query widget, and this is a query widget. So basically, let's go in and take a look here. We touched on this a little bit, but if you look in here, we added a sidebar to reserve. Now, the reserve sidebar doesn't actually get placed anywhere on screen. All it does is make the widgets available as shortcodes, so you can paste them in here like I did like this. So when you go in and create a widget, if we see here's our reserve homepage sidebar, you see we have our slider widget, our query widget, our query widget, and our query widget. Now, if you expand these, you'll see it has a lot of options, and we'll go over a lot of it in a minute. At the bottom, it says shortcode widget ID, and then it has the widget ID. If you paste that into an editor, it will actually put that entire widget right there. So let's take a look at what this slider widget actually does. It does a couple things. So number one, we left the title blank, and it takes the post status. So it'll pull in any post with status of any of these, and we have the post status set to publish. It will take post type, and it will query for any post type that we have in here. So we're putting any. It will query any post type. The category, it'll query from this category. So we gave it a category of slider. So any post type that is published and has the category slider will get pulled in here, up to however many results we want to pull in. And now we're pulling in a maximum of 3 results. And then there's a couple of other items in here. Where do you want to start looking, say at the beginning of time, and where do you want to end looking, today? And then we have an order by, and then you can change the order by here. You can change the order. You can change the order and the order by, whether descending or ascending. Extra query parameters is very low-level stuff, and will actually, if you're a WordPress ninja, can actually put in the query parameters right there, and it'll do it for you. Here's something called template parameters. Template parameters lets you pass items to the template that is used for this widget, and I'll get back to that in a minute. And the other thing I want to get to here is image size. You see right here it has a number of image sizes that you're telling it to use. We used large slider. I'm going to get to that in a minute also. Transition type, you can either have it slide or fade. Animation speed, how long it takes to get from one end to the other, whether it's a slide or a fade. Delay speed, how long you want it to take before it actually works for the first time. Height of the actual object, width of the actual object. Include arrow button, include page navigation. Yes, I misspelled it. So this will basically says, do you want to include these little arrows here and this navigation down here? And then finally, our familiar CSS styles go right in there. So we're going to continue next time going through these changes, but I wanted to see that you could add widgets directly through the editor panel.